You've been in a coma, Johnny.
For how long?
5 years.
The house is burning. Your daughter's in the house. It's not too late.
You're the talk of the town
Because I got my head bashed in and I'm still here to talk about it.
because you have the power of second sight.
I don't know whether it's true or not, these psychic powers of yours. Now, I'm at my wit's end, John. I could use your help. It has to do with these murders we've been having. The Castle Rock killer.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Whoop, whoop. Stay at home alert. Stay at home alert. Whoop.
Pretty much. This week we'll be discussing the horror classic, The Dead Zone, starring Christopher Walken.
Oh, it's a classic, mofo. It's a classic. There's no question about it.
Ain't no lie. Ain't no
Bye.
lie. For sure. What? Why don't you give us the 30-second synopsis of The Dead Zone?
All right. Now, because I love this movie, I went and I'm in the middle of re-listening to the book. So I hopefully I don't like freak out and now forget which was where. But anyway, dude is a teacher, got a girl, gets into an accident, whammo, coma, 5 years, psychic abilities. Woo!
That's all it takes.
Basically, solves crime, saves the world, dies like a martyr for Jesus. The end.
Nicely done.
Boom! You can't get any shorter than that.
That gets the job done. Now, what was your first? When was the first time you had even heard of The Dead Zone? I imagine you read the book before you saw the movie.
I read the book, and I think our dad read it, and I stole his copy because I was already knee deep into Stephen King at this point. And then I was like, Dead Zone, boink. Yeah, Dead Zone is fantastic. People don't always talk about the Dead Zone. The Dead Zone is fantastic.
Well, because it's very different from his other stuff. There aren't like monsters or ghosts or anything like that. You know what I mean?
But there are flavors here of Carrie. There are flavors here of even crappy Firestarter. You know, it touches on a little bit of this stuff. He's still deep in his dementia at this point. He was not clean and sober.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, the other thing about it is the name. The title of it is kind of misleading.
Right.
I remember as a child seeing like the box in the video store for The Dead Zone. You think it's about zombies or things like that.
Exactly. Or ghosts or you're coming, this or that. Yeah.
There's nothing really. You have to look close to see what The Dead Zone even refers to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's actually different in the movie than it is in the book.
Correct. And there are a couple of little differences between the two, but I would say, I mean, of course you're missing 90% of the goodness that are in the book because you're getting everybody's backstory. But otherwise, I would say this is fairly faithful. Faithful.
It is. I mean, it's about as faithful as it can be. It's like a 400-page book condensed down to a 90-minute movie. So there's going to be some things that disappear. Now, just so we set the record straight, what is The Dead Zone as far as the movie's concerned?
As far as the movie's concerned, The Dead Zone is like when he's getting a psychic vibe. There is like an area of darkness. So that's supposed to indicate that there's still a possibility that there could be change.
Right.
Like it's not set in stone.
Yes. Like this is what will happen if you don't fix it, basically.
Correct.
So that's interesting. In the book, I guess the Dead Zone, because in the book he has like brain damage from the accident.
Well, like in the book too, he had a previous accident as a child and was already kind of sensing things.
Right.
He was already like a lucky guy and a guy who could kind of read you and kind of knew things. But it wasn't until the big accident that he was like gripping people and getting lightning bolts and stuff.
Right. Yeah, in the book, he has like a tumor in his brain, and the dead zone refers to the fact that, I guess, because of the brain damage,
right?
Certain like faculties of his brain aren't working, and that's why the psychicness kicks in, because the other parts of the brain have to work harder or something. I don't know.
Right. Supposedly, it's like if you go blind, your hearing pricks up. If you get a tumor or a conk on the head, then other parts of your brain have to work to compensate. So they're indicating that a previous accident already set some of this into motion, and in fact, at one point the doctors say because of the previous accident, that's why you were able to survive this one, because your body, like it was you were immunized against it. But anyway, that's the book.
I have to talk about this movie is Walkenized from Jump Street.
Oh,
Christopher Walken plays the main character.
It is a Walken master freaking piece.
No question.
Screw that nom thing. This is Walken at his finest.
What's funny to me, and I'm jumping right into the highlights. In the before his accident, he's got the weirdest like bowl cut
and glasses. Apparently, the accident actually cured his astigmatism too.
Cured his eyesight and gave him a more traditional Walken hairstyle, where it's all like kind of spiked up and fancy. It's like it's the weirdest transformation. I think he was
Stephen King before the accident.
So it could be.
Well, because in the book, the kids refer to him as Frankenstein.
Why?
Because of his gait, and he's tall and he's gangly, and you can see it because remember King was a teacher. So
yes.
I bet kids called him Frankenstein.
I bet kids still call him Frankenstein, frankly. Good Lord.
And I will tell you, back to Walken, the accident also knocked the ugly stick off, and he became hot as hell.
Okay, this is where you lose me.
No, this is a fact, Jack. I remember Cosmopolitan came out, Walken on the cover, the thinking woman's sex symbol, right after this movie. This was his
April Fool's edition?
It was not the April Fool's. When his hair's all crazy and he's suffering, he never looked better, not before, not after. This was his shining pinnacle moment.
This is madness.
This is madness. He was hot.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
H-O-T.
Can I talk about... I'm leaving that behind. Can we talk about how the car crash that puts him in the coma is totally unnecessary? It was the weirdest scene. It was like the truck just kind of goes off the road because the guy was kind of sound asleep. Yeah. And Walken's driving his Volkswagen Bug. It's not even that stormy. He just like crashes into it for no reason.
I think that because the truck crashed down the hill and the trailer moved up the hill, so it was a blind spot. So basically, he didn't get out in time. The Bug was not known for its performance. Our dad rolled a Bug, totaled it.
Well, so there you go.
Maybe that was our father. Are you Christopher Walken, Daddy?
Are you Christopher Walken? Do you have any highlights you want to share? We can alternate.
Oh my God! Well, let me just talk about my crazy. Oh! One of my favorite parts. So he wakes up from the coma with his nasty old chap lips because apparently they don't have chapstick in emergency rooms.
They do not.
And the nurse touches him. He grabs the nurse by the arm, and he is now in the burning house.
Yes.
Watching her crazy 8-year-old daughter hiding in the corner. Little girl, you're 8 years old. You should know better than that. You're not 4. Anyway, he's like in the kid's bed and the flames are coming around. That was stellar. Stellar.
Your house is on fire.
I can't even do a Walken, man.
Mine is not. I'm gonna struggle through it all episode long.
It's gonna be all Walken. It's just gonna be Aaron Doherty and Christopher Walken at the movies.
Pretty much
replacing Siskel and Ebert.
There's that long space. Your house, yes. What about my house? The house is burned down by the time you finish the sentence. Is on fire. Good times. No, it's because you're right. He grabs him, and there is that like they've been electrocuted kind of thing where they both go, ah, what is happening? Yeah, that's the first time he's got to touch you. He's got to touch your skin.
Yeah,
and then that reveals the thing. And I kept thinking to myself, hey, maybe buy some gloves. What do you think about that?
You're right. Because remember, did you watch Pushing Daisies?
No. But I'm familiar with it.
Because the concept is he has this power to bring the dead back. He touches the dead once, they're back to life. Touches them again, they're dead forever. And he brings back the love of his life, and now they can never touch.
Right.
Gloves and a body condom.
Right. Well, exactly. I was just going to say that. There's some things you can still do. Anyway. Anywho. So yeah, I mean, there's a million scenes. One thing that's interesting about this movie is, and somebody made this point, there really isn't an antagonist through most of the movie. No. It's just about him kind of going through life with this weird new power.
It's a slice of life film. It's like Roma, but with Walken, and not in Mexico.
I think Gene Shalit said it the same way. Good Lord. It's a slice of, yes, it's basically, it's Walken. And Walken has to walk around with a crazy cane all the time because he was in a coma for all those years, so his ligaments are kind of jacked.
Yeah, he would have had chicken wing arms and curled up baby legs.
Thankfully, he does not. Oh, sweet Jesus.
But in the book, he does. He has to go through all this terrible surgeries and stuff.
Surgeries. Okay.
Yeah, to lengthen it. He was he was in the hospital for like a couple of years, or I think after he wakes up.
Right. So, I mean, he touches the nurse, he touches the doctor, and it's a flashback to like Nazi Germany or whatever. Poland.
The wolf is loose.
Right. So it's like he can see what's going to happen in the present. Because when he grabbed the nurse, the fire was currently occurring, basically. He can see what was happening in the past, which is when he touches the doctor who escaped from Poland. By the way, did you notice the doctor was Chief Inspector Dreyfus from the Pink Panther movies?
No!
Yes.
No! I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that movie and I've never connected that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good call, brother.
Thank you. This is how I do.
That's how I do.
Well, I mean, this is the actor section of the show, but he was like a big star in like the 50s and 60s. By the 80s, he was just like, where do I sign at this stage of the game?
Well, this was signing in the right place right here.
He was definitely signing in the right place on here. So he touches that. I'm trying to think. So then there's that weird newscast, right? The press conference where the kind of skeptical reporters just like, oh, so you're psychic? Why don't you tell us what's going to happen in the future? He's like, well, it doesn't really work that way. I have to touch you. Oh, well, then touch me. And then suddenly it's like, your sister
is a dirty whore.
He did not say that. But it was that kind of thing where it was like, hang on. It's like, why don't you tell us more about that truth?
You want to know why your sister committed suicide.
Why is your Christopher Walken more like Harvey Firestein is my question.
Because that's how I do it.
I've got these powers. Let me hold your hand.
I cannot do the Walken. It's too complicated. I can't do it.
They're gonna break through the ice.
People are gonna hate this episode. It's just walking impressions.
That's all you need.
And laughing.
That's all you're gonna need. Oh man, I love it. Okay, so later in the movie, what is his name? Tom Skerritt.
Yes.
Tom Skerritt pops up seemingly out of nowhere. He's the sheriff, and there's been like a serial killer on the loose for the last like 4 years or something ridiculous.
This was big, man. In the 70s, they were always putting the touch out to psychics for missing children or murder suspects. I remember watching news shows and stuff, and they'd have all the big psychics would be making predictions, and yeah.
They didn't have DNA evidence back in the day. So Tom Skerritt's like, look, we've exhausted every, method of police methodology. We have no idea. Spoiler alert, it's his partner.
Yes! Dodd.
Like I'm thinking, some detective. So your partner has been the serial killer. That's like the call is coming from in the house. Is basically what it is. It was a great scene, but I kept thinking, so maybe elect a new sheriff next time. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you the backstory, because in the book, the kid, father died young, was an alcoholic, and when he was 16, he'd gone to the sheriff to find out, hey, can I be like a sheriff in training? So that they had a personal relationship where the deputy was almost like a son to him. So he had like a total blind eye to what was going on.
A dead zone, if you will.
If you will.
So I mean, and that's kind of the thing. It's like people are knocking on his door saying, "Hey, help us out with your magical powers," and he's constantly like, I think I'm gonna take a pass there. Thanks, but no thanks.
Oh, now you're slipping into Harvey Keitel. I think.
I'll do what I can do. Sweet Jesus. So yeah. So it's like these little vignettes of first I'm touching the nurse, then it's like the sheriff comes, he solves that case. And then it's like when they discover who the murderer is, they chase him to his house and he commits suicide by shoving his face on his scissors.
Yeah, that was stupid. I mean, first of all, I'm not even sure that works.
I don't think it would work, but it's just kind of...
It would work, and it was a choice, because in the book, he kills himself in a different way.
Right.
They just wanted to be shocking.
Yes. In the book, I think he's a strangler, and in the movie, he's like stabbing people with like scissors.
Right.
And that was his thing.
And in the book, he kills himself by slitting his own throat and pinning a note to himself that just says, I confess.
Oh, yeah, there's no confession in this one.
Yeah. I confess. I confess.
I mean, and keep in mind, he could have just said, no, I didn't.
Yeah, the suicide note would be, nope. But the same thing, the mother knew all about it from the beginning. And in the book, you get this kid's backstory where the mother had been like torturing him in a sexual manner.
I see. You know... Thank you. So, and how come the sheriff never comes back and says, "Hey, why don't you helping me with the next case that we're struggling with?"
That's it. Now you're just back to kitty diddlers and shoplifting back in the old.
Why not help us out?
Yikes! I think he moves or goes into hiding again.
Well, we have to talk about the love of his life. Who was like, I will wait for you, teary-eyed confession. I will wait for you, Johnny, however long. Cut to, sorry, I'm married with a child.
Yeah.
My bad.
Peace in the Middle East, yeah.
But she keeps coming, like she shows up.
She got an itch, she got to scratch it.
She definitely got her itch scratched. And I kept thinking they cut to a scene like mid-coitus where he like suddenly is struck by lightning. Oh, my goodness. Your house is on fire. I thought he was going to do something. There was no scene like that. What, she doesn't have anything going on?
I guess not.
He's touching her all over the place, and no premonitions. Very upsetting.
Yep.
While the baby looks on. Yeah.
His penis is not a psychic device, I guess.
It should be. For goodness sake. No, while the baby's looking on, crying and pointing, basically. Very upsetting. Right. She throws him a little one for the road on her way out the door. He's like, when can we see each other again? And she says, never.
Never.
Deuces.
Yeah. Yeah, in the movie they're like engaged, but they're not having sex. Because...
Right. He says that in the movie, where it's just like, yo, worth the wait.
In the book, they just started dating.
So, well then.
Yeah, in the book they kind of just started dating, and then you see her as time goes by. She doesn't really remember what he looks like. The dad writes to her, and in her mind, she really poo-poos the whole relationship. So that's how she was able to move on to the next one.
Well, if they just started dating, it's a bit much to ask her to like keep the home fires burning for 5 years.
The issue, I think, is, of course, he's just woken up. So he remembers the night before.
Yes.
So,
right.
So that's the deal. And she was able to, as time passes, you can talk yourself into anything. And how long are you going to wait? I mean, for 5 years, you keep visiting him, but it ain't looking good, man. And comas were very popular during this time, too. There were people who were waking up after 14 years, but let me tell you, they're not tap dancing and doing high-level math.
As far as we know. Behind closed doors, who knows?
You might be opening your eyes, but you're going to have to relearn how to swallow and talk, so...
No, people were having comas all the time back in the day.
It was good. The Colts hijacking comas. It was all the 70s.
It was all, no question. No. She is not a bad person for moving on. It was 5 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they got together 2 weeks later or something. She's like, and I've got 5 kids, one of which was born 3 months after you went into your coma. She was
that might have been more fun.
That would have been more fun. No. She's got like a 10-month-old. Yeah. So, I mean, it would seem like although the mom, she cast her from your heart, Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
She abandoned you in your hour of need. Or something along those lines.
Stephen King's got a thing about religious mamas.
Yes.
Religious
no question.
mamas. Oh, yeah. This in the book, she's like, she's sending money to the televangelists. He's had to lock out the checking account. She's going to go live with the UFO people.
Oh, for reals.
I had this whole theory that the Christopher Walken character is like some kind of a saint. Like, if you want to turn this into like a religious novel, like historically, like these crazy people are the ones that end up like in the Bible because they're getting the truth and no one believes them. So maybe Crazy Mom is correct. And Christopher Walken is this creature being sent back by God to handle things, which it never works out for the people who are doing God's work. This is why Satan is so popular. He's offering you glory. You do Jesus' work. You're alone. You suffer. You do the bidding, and your rewards in the next life. It's a lot of suffering.
Martyrs.
They're martyrs. That's not a popular thing. So, I mean, but what always blew my mind, and this is why I'm not a regular churchgoer.
Okay.
If God is omnipotent, what is it? Why did he create the monsters? Why does he create the monsters? This is almost like Zeus stuff. And then force the humans to go handle the business that he created.
Hey, He works in mysterious ways.
He works. It starts to sound a lot like, like Zeus and those kind of gods when you start dealing with that kind of stuff, where it's just arbitrary and it's suffering, and then what?
Well, let's save that for our theology podcast. Shall we?
Coming soon.
Coming soon. No. She is by no means a villain in the scenario, but I do like how he makes it very clear. He's like, for you, it's been 5 years, but for me, it was last night. And now I'm starting to sound like Katharine Hepburn or something. It was last night.
Just a touch of the pulse.
Just a dip. So there's that whole thing. But again, now he's like tutoring children at his house or something because he can't bear to go outdoors because he'll touch people inappropriately, I guess. And then he'll be having flashbacks and flash forwards. And that's when your pal Anthony Zerbe shows up on the scene. Do you remember Anthony Zerbe?
Wait a second. Who's Anthony Zerbe?
Who's Anthony Zerbe? He's the guy who's got the reclusive son that needs help with his reading, but also with his socialization.
Yes.
Yes. All-star Anthony Zerbe. We'll talk about him later, perhaps. But it's like literally this wealthy dude hunts down Christopher Walken to be his son's tutor.
Because he is the greatest tutor in New England. He's a therapist. He's a special education teacher. He is all these things for the rich and famous.
It seemed very peculiar. It's like, if you're not coming here for specifically my psychic abilities, it's weird that you're coming here at all. Basically. Where it's literally like, hey, I've done some research and you're just the best GD tutor the world has ever known.
Yeah.
I'm coming far and wide, knocking on your house. Please just meet with my son before you make a decision, Christopher Walken.
He's so shy.
He's socially awkward.
Well, good. So is Christopher Walken.
I don't know if I want Christopher Walken helping my children with their pronunciation and diction, by the way. How do you say that word?
With long pauses, randomly.
Your house is on fire. Anyway, so he's tutoring this kid, and then somebody's knocking on the door because they're passing out the flyers for Greg Stilson.
Right.
The new candidate for U.S. Senate.
Gives you a vibe about someone who's in the news these days, doesn't it?
It does. So this is where we kind of are introduced to the whole Greg Stilson thing, which is really for the last third of the movie, where now you've got your antagonist, basically at this point of
you have found Christopher Walken's purpose for being.
Exactly. But of course, the guy passing out the flyers is what's her name's new husband,
Brooke Adams' husband.
Yes, and Christopher Walken has a creepy exchange. He's like crying after she leaves, and his peculiar student goes, "What does he call him, Mr. Smith? Are you okay, Mr. Smith?" And Walken turns around and gives him the creepiest hug and snuggle. It was like, this is inappropriate touching. We do not have this much affection for our students that we're meeting alone in our house.
It's a different time, man. First of all, creepy plus creepy equals normal, I think. You do your math.
You should never invite students into your home.
Oh, no.
Don't do
when
it.
I was in high school, I would go to people's houses for tutoring. Lord knows I had math tutors, which was a math teacher at, I don't know, somewhere. He wasn't my math teacher, but he was a teacher somewhere else. And I used to have to go and meet with him.
Was he as creepy as Christopher Walken? That's the question.
When you're in high school, everybody looks like somebody's dad. So it was all just whatever.
Okay.
He wasn't as hot as Christopher Walken, if that's what you're asking.
Well, who is, really? Very sad.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that whole thing. So now we've got Martin Sheen, who Martin Sheen plays the evil guy running for Senate, and it's like he's like basically a gangster. He's a gangster with like weird megalomania. He thinks he was the chosen one.
He has a purpose. He feels
Right.
he has a purpose. That's a problem.
It's my destiny. My destiny is to be
That's why
president.
I never had a purpose. So, because I was afraid that, I would become Greg Stilson. So now I just float.
That's exactly right. No, but it was bizarre. Like, we, the audience, know he's a bad dude because there's like scenes where he's like roughing up like the editor of the local newspaper or whatever.
Right.
But Christopher Walken doesn't seem to know that. Although he's talking to Anthony Zerbe, and Anthony Zerbe's like, "Can't these guys see through his baloney?" But we don't know. He doesn't know anything's bad about him. But Christopher Walken, literally, they're having the big like rally outside of his front door, basically, and he runs out there. Do you think he runs out there to shake hands with Craig Stilson? Or is he just trying to hang out with Brooke Adams, who's passing out flyers for his campaign? I don't recall.
It appears as if he is running out there for that purpose. Because I don't see him looking around for her. He's just kind of standing there watching.
But why? What inspired him to do that is my question.
Well,
do you know?
Because in the book, he I haven't gotten to that part, but before I started,
so we'll never know.
Well, before I started reading, I read the Wikipedia, and apparently he went around and started doing this with like politicians. Supposedly, according to the Wikipedia, unless that could be full of lies, that he even shakes the hand of Jimmy Carter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so he was kind of like screening everybody.
So he shakes.
I'll let you know if that's a house of lies, because that's Wikipedia. I can go in there and change it.
Please do. So he shakes Martin Sheen's hand, and he has a premonition that Martin Sheen's basically going to cause a nuclear holocaust.
Right.
When he's going to become president, and then he's going to launch the birds.
And right now he's just running for state senate. So it's
or U.S. Senate. In the movie, it's U.S. Senate. In the book, he's like a state representative or something. Is that right? Or am I mixing it up?
I get confused because, like I said, I'm right in the middle of it. So in the book, he starts off as a door-to-door Bible salesman and just kind of works his way up to being mayor and
right.
Slowly but surely rises.
Interesting.
And he's a bad dude for sure.
It's like
he's a
in
sadist
the book,
too.
Right. In the book, while he's selling Bibles door to door, he kicks a dog to death.
Yes.
To really establish not a good dude.
Yes.
So now Christopher Walken's calling up the doctor again, saying, "If you had to kill Hitler," my impression's getting worse and worse every time I do it.
It's just falling to pieces.
It's falling to pieces. The house is on fire.
I think that was your pinnacle.
That was it. It was never as good as that. Would you kill, if you go back in time to kill Hitler? And you think if your buddy with psychic abilities is saying, if you go back in time to murder somebody, would you do it? You think you'd be a little more careful with your answers.
A little clued in about what's going on. We're just
right
out of the blue. We're just going to have this philosophical conversation. But I remember in elementary school or junior high, this would be a conversation that would pop up.
But if a dude came to you with desperate look in his eyes, pulling the rifle off the shelf, saying, "Would you kill Hitler?"
Exactly.
And I can see in the future, as you know. I think he'd be like the doctor's like, "Heck yeah, I'd kill him."
Well,
but then you die.
Yeah, but look at it this way: he knows he's psychic, so maybe he know what he need to do.
For sure, for sure, could be. So now he's gonna go. And I kept thinking to myself, so there's another rally. He goes there, takes a bus, hides up in the balcony with his rifle to shoot Greg Stilson. I'm like, is it really that easy to assassinate someone back in the day?
This is pre-9/11. I used to be able to walk my friends onto the plane. I used to be able to walk through the gate And say to the attendant, I'm going to go say one more thing to my friend. Walk on the plane, talk to my friend, sit in her seat like she's on a cruise ship, and then walk back out. That was
Those
this time.
days are over.
Those days are over.
Those days are, because he literally is just like, so this is the place where you're going to give your rally tomorrow. I'm going to go up with my rifle in the balcony and then fall asleep. Fall asleep in the balcony and then go, oops, I better load my gun as people are walking in the door and like drop one because you got the palsy. Drop at least one bullet down into the crowd for someone to discover. But of course, no one never does.
Right.
So that's lucky.
He slept the sleep of the righteous.
I guess. So in the middle of the speech, now he pops up to shoot him, misses horribly. But Greg Stillson grabs Brooke Adams' baby out of her arms and tries to use it as a human shield.
Right.
Which, on some level, it seemed ridiculous. Because you think you'd just be like,
you grab Brooke Adams.
Brooke Adams, if for only her performance in this movie, you definitely choose to grab Brooke Adams before the baby. She's a much bigger target, evidently, to hide behind. And I mean, it just seemed like it doesn't make as much sense. You know what I mean? It's like,
because he doesn't, first of all, Greg Stillson doesn't know their relationship. So if this guy's really a wacko, what's to stop him from shooting through the baby?
Right. Babies are not bulletproof as far as I know.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I mean, who knows? It just seemed like that wouldn't be the best shield. It's almost done for the purpose of discrediting himself later. You know what I mean?
Right. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's all that needed to happen. I think if he killed him,
yes.
I mean, one, no one would believe what was going on. Actually, quite frankly, not talking about the story, but for what you need to have happen, it really doesn't matter whether he's discredited or killed because it stops.
Yes, right. So that's the thing. It's like Christopher Walken doesn't succeed in killing him, but by kind of putting him in the position where he reveals his true colors.
Right.
That destroys his political career. And later
he kills himself.
Right. So Greg Stillson runs up, Martin Sheen, and grabs Christopher Walken. Who sent you? Who sent you? And he touches him. And now he has the premonition of him looking at like Newsweek magazine where it's like Greg Stillson discredited and then he kills himself.
Right.
With a gun. So it all worked out, evidently. Luckily, Brooke Adams is there to kind of snuggle with him in his dying moments.
Oh, that gave me a little tear in my eye. It always makes me sad, that ending. There's never been anyone but you!
Walt, would you give me some space so I can make out with this dying man?
You son of a...
This baby's yours.
Husband 2.0.
Exactly. Very sad situation. No, so that's basically the entire movie. I enjoyed it. That's all I'm saying.
What's your favorite scene?
You know what? There are many. I mean, I liked that when he was on the hunt for the killer.
Yeah.
I liked. There are many scenes. Walken is just entertaining.
Oh yeah.
To watch.
He's fantastic. I love it. At one point, he freaking looks like Bowie, like the man who fell to earth. He has this trench coat with the collar flipped up. He's got his crazy spiked out Walken hair. He's totally cosmic Walken Bowie. It's crazy.
Well, he's got his cane and he's kind of staggering around doing his thing. It is Walken at his finest. It's almost like if you're trying to establish this as a normal guy,
no,
is Walken the best choice? That's my question for you.
Walken is never the normal guy. In fact, just in my notes, I did the triangle of Walken, and we start off with the bowl cut, and then we go to the man who fell to earth look, and then that is transformed into the final Cosmopolitan Walken, where he's even hotter. So there you go. It's the triangle of Walken.
We'll leave that to the courts
Never
to decide
before
how attractive
and
he
never
is.
again.
Thank goodness for that, at least.
Oh
No, it's...
well,
Go ahead.
there's a great line while you're wrapping this up. There's a great
Please.
line where he's sending the missiles off. He's like, "The missiles are flying, gentlemen! Hallelujah, hallelujah!" That was fantastic.
Right. No, it was a horrible scene where it was like the vice president and the secretary of state run up. "Mr. President, there's no need to do this. We have some diplomatic." He's like, "Gentlemen, the birds are in the air. Hallelujah, hallelujah." Because he's talking about how it's his destiny.
Right.
And even the whoever the other dude, there's like some other guy who had to touch the scanner or whatever with his bare hand. And it's like, "May God have mercy on my soul," or something along those lines.
You put your hand on there, or I will cut it off and put it on there for you.
Like, who is that guy? Like,
I thought he
we've
was
established
the Secretary of Defense or the Vice Principal. I can't remember vice principal.
or the vice. It could have been the vice principal.
It
He
was
helps
the
out.
AP.
Could be.
I forget who it is, but somebody who needed to have their hand scanned, I guess.
That's true. Are you ready for behind the scenes?
I have just one weird thing. He was eating
Go for it.
cereal at one time, and it was Cheerios, and on the back it said hot buttered Cheerios.
I noticed that.
I googled
wanted to-
that. I googled.
What's the recipe?
So it's basically Chex Party Mix with Cheerios, where you add the butter and the Worcestershire sauce, and then you bake it.
Ah.
But then I found a recipe where somebody was like using the honey nut Cheerios and to give it the salty sweet thing. I was like, what the hell, hot buttered Cheerios? So
I'll tell you what. This is a controversial statement. Honey Nut Cheerios?
yes,
Not too bad at all.
all right.
I enjoy Honey Nut Cheerios. Regular Cheerios is basically inedible unless you dump a bunch of sugar on it. Honey Nut, not too shabby.
All right, time for you to now start melting some butter with some Worcestershire sauce and start making some of that Chex Party Mix. Or
It's so funny.
hot
I noticed that
buttered
too.
Cheerios. Because it's just
You
so
can't beat
weird. I always look at like the old ads. And I always tell people about how our mother used to make us hot shredded wheat, and no one else
Yes.
on earth has ever heard of that. Ever.
What about peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches? Anybody ever heard of
That
that
was
one?
in the White Trash Cookbook. But nobody I know has ever eaten one.
When we tell these stories, it's like people think we were living in the wrong side of the tracks. We hit the skids and just had to eat whatever we could get.
No, because
No.
they would also get the chopped olive sandwiches. Did they have those when you were a kid?
No.
So when I was at Kauai school, it was white bread, mayonnaise on one side, and the can of chopped olives, like I was going to a tea or something. That would be a pretty standard lunch. Chopped olive sandwich.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
My mom had very interesting ideas about cuisine. Anywho, behind the scenes, you know who the director was?
Oh, wait. I know who produced it.
That's not what I asked.
Dino De
damn it.
Laurentiis. Damn it! Who directed it?
Which is an interesting choice too. That Dino De Laurentiis, who is doing Conan the Barbarian, went into Dead Zone. This is directed by David Cronenberg.
Ooh, how did I miss
which is
that?
Which is kind of shocking because his movies traditionally deal with kind of like body horror stuff.
Right. He was very
There's
well.
always
Yeah,
kind of-
that's why we have the scissor scene. So
That's basically, it's like literally if you got rid of the scissor scene and got rid of the boobs that you see in one scene,
Yeah.
this is like a PG
Yeah.
movie. It really is. It's not a terrifying movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's much more interesting than terrifying.
I agree. It's good.
It's very good. David Cronenberg, the director, would fire a .357 Magnum loaded with blanks just off camera to make Smith's flinches seem more involuntary.
Oh my God.
And that was Walken's idea.
Oh.
If you shoot a gun,
So we have to
Okay.
assume then that Walken is not a method actor if somebody's shooting a gun behind your head.
just shoot it. They had to reshoot that burning premonition from the beginning of the movie because I guess if you look in the little girl's shelf, you can see an E.T. doll burning, and Universal Pictures threatened to sue. There you go. This
I
film
thought you were
and the
going to say
novel,
because they accidentally cooked the kid and had to reshoot.
because they
had to get another one in there. Clear out
said,
the
"You know what?
bones.
To clear out the bones, get a new actress in there." Yes. This is based upon the life of a famous psychic named Peter Hurkos from like the 50s and 60s.
Did not know that.
He claimed that he had psychic powers after he fell off a ladder and hit his head. He was famously debunked multiple times. This is the first of several Stephen King novels and movies that took place in the fictional small town of Castle Rock.
Right. And there was even a series called Castle Rock.
I think it's still going on Hulu. It's pretty good.
Right.
Others include Cujo, Stand By Me, The Dark Half, Needful Things, and of course Rob Reiner named his production company after this Castle Rock.
Why?
Well. I don't know. Big fan.
All right.
Let's see. The sweat on Christopher Walken's face during the burning bedroom scene was actually flame retardant chemical.
All right.
That was sprayed on him. Because literally, if you're looking, he is literally on fire while he's having the premonition.
Oh my God, I thought that was just added on afterwards. Actually, just like lit Christopher Walken on fire, shooting guns at him, lighting him on fire.
My arm is on fire. Anyway, let's see. The gazebo where the murder takes place was built for the film. And initially, the people of the town did not want it. Didn't want them to build it. But after it was completed, they loved it so much that it's there to this day.
And where was that? Lake Arrowhead?
It was Lake Arrowhead. No, it was, what is it called? Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario, Canada.
Right. Didn't want to pay American Union fees, I see.
Yeah, pretty much. Bill Murray was Stephen King's choice to play the role of Johnny. There you go.
Oh my God! Now I got to wrap my mind around that one.
Very good. I think there's probably anything else we want to know. Johnny's mother in the movie.
She looks much younger than I think she is.
She's only 4 years older than Christopher Walken.
I was going to say, because there are parts when she looks old, the other parts I'm like, wait a minute. Like her skin doesn't look that old.
She didn't look that old. And the other thing about it is, how come his parents are basically dwarves? They're basically hobbits, and then here's like 6'5" Christopher
You mean
Walken
like our
walking
father?
around. Exactly. Christopher Walken is like 6'5", 6'9" with this crazy high top fade going on there. It's the weirdest.
It happens, brother. It happens. Our grandparents were dwarves, and our grandfather's sisters were double dwarves.
I don't even know what a double dwarf
It means
is.
they're half the size. You subtract.
Interesting. Martin Sheen's character has a vision he will become a president, and guess what? In The West Wing, he is the president.
That's right. And in real life, Donald Trump was the president.
Well, and you and I know that Stephen King went on an extended jag about how the Dead Zone basically predicted Donald Trump becoming president.
I agree.
It's true.
I'm sure Donald Trump kicked the dog somewhere.
Oh, no question. That's why do you think he won't have a dog? He refuses.
Because he kicked it.
Because he kicked it. They won't come near him.
The only difference is Greg Stilson's poor, Donald Trump's rich. So he had his sonny go out and take care of stuff because Donald doesn't want to see all that. He's too weak.
Very sad. Shall we talk about the cast? We talked about.
Should we talk about Christopher Walken?
Christopher Walken. I have to talk. I sent you that video. Did you see it when Christopher Walken was on Saturday Night Live? Christopher Walken was on Saturday Night Live. I swear to God, like 10 times.
He's fantastic.
And he is dynamite.
More cowbell.
He's more cowbell. There's also Trivial Psychic, where he's basically playing this role. Your car is about to get towed. So yeah, there's a lot of that good stuff. Known most famously, according to this, Hairspray, the 2007
I didn't
edition.
see that trash.
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh yeah, his is the dad.
The Deer Hunter,
No,
which I believe he won an Academy Award.
I can't see that shit. I can't see Noam stuff.
The Prophecy.
I didn't see
Not to
that.
be
We'll have to put
mixed
that on
up
the
with
list.
Prophecy.
I'm all about walking as long as it's not a war walking.
And of course, he was in a James Bond movie, A View to a Kill.
Wait a minute.
Very good. Yep.
Which is it? Catch Me. Which is the one where he's giving him the watch that everybody took turns swallowing and
Pulp
pooping
Fiction.
out.
Pulp Fiction. I don't believe they took turns doing it, but it's a human centipede. Sarah, his love interest, was played by Brooke Adams.
And we just reviewed something that she was in. What was that?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah, she seems like a victim.
She's great. Tom Skerritt played Sheriff Bannerman.
Love
Alien,
Tom Skerritt.
Contact,
Yep.
MASH, Top Gun.
All good.
Ton of things. Herbert Lom played Dr. Weizak. All the Pink Panther movies. He was also in like Spartacus 150 years ago.
Whoa.
Yep. Good times. Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen is Martin Sheen. He drank the tiger blood and reproduced children, so.
Departed, Badlands, Apocalypse Now, Bleez Blahs, Bleez Blahs.
Dodd is somebody. Wasn't he in that? I Need a Hero. Wasn't he in some TV series?
I Need a Hero. Are you talking about Greatest American Hero?
No, not Greatest American Hero. There was something else.
I will tell you. He was in Da Vinci's Inquest. You remember it, don't you?
No.
His name's Nicholas Campbell, by the way.
Right.
He was in Cinderella Man,
No.
A Bridge Too Far,
No.
and Naked Lunch.
Wait, A Bridge Too Far with
10,000 other actors.
I was gonna
So
say I was thinking A Bridge on the River.
Bridge on the River Kwai.
Like, how old is this son of a bitch?
No, he ain't that old, for God's sakes. Let's talk about our ratings, because I need to really wrap this up.
All right.
It currently has an 89% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
That seems fair.
So, I think it seems very fair. What is your personal rating?
It is. I want to give it 5 out of 5 Watastic gasms.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take your word for it. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 creepy Christopher Walken handshakes. Where people are like, let go of my hand. It's a solid B, baby. That's how I do.
Right.
Well, there's so many scenes where he grabs somebody's hand and they're like trying to extricate their hand. What are you doing? Let go of me. Why are you looking at me like that?
It's all right. It's not all right. It's okay. It's not okay. Remember that scene with the reporter? I'm like, that's great. I'm going to use that at an next IEP. I'm just not going to let go and just stare intently at him. It's not all right.
They love it.
It's not okay.
They love it.
All right. Before you continue wrapping this up, I have to tell you one little spoiler about my book on tape.
Go ahead.
Who is reading it? Guess.
If I had to guess, it would be Brooke Adams.
It's James fucking Franco.
In his most triumphant role.
He is the worst. He has 2 voices. And there's the one voice he uses for every single character except for the Doctor. Guess whose voice he uses for the Doctor?
Is it the guy from The Room?
Yes! It is.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
That is the voice he uses. I'm like, it's so distracting. And now he's starting to use it with other characters that that are not Polish.
This is very upsetting.
Who told James Franco that he needed to do voice audio books?
If you do the Dead Zone and you don't do the walk-in voice, it's a travesty.
No walk-in voice. It's James Franco, except when it's the Room guy.
Interesting.
Oh, Jesus. It's
So
so
there you have
distracting.
it.
I'm like, James Franco. Stupid audibles.
So thank you very much. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie at Gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc., etc., etc. Like, share, subscribe, spread the word. Aaron, you are on social media.
I am on social media. Multimedia.
My word, what you own?
I am on the Twitski and the Insta, the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult.
That's all you need. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and be well.
Be well. Put on your mask. Stay at home. Don't be a dick. Get the shot. Leave me alone. Bye.
The house is on fire.